Welcome to another edition of the Royal Alliance UK podcast, episode 352, Silver Linings Playbook. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick and Ashley Soden. How are you doing, boys?
Doing good. Managed to catch up on my sleep from staying up to watch the Hall of Fame game. What a fun time that was. And, taking part this weekend in someone's stag do, though I'm not a member of the wedding party, was also a fun experience.
Have you named this show after that terrible film of the same name?
It was more I was trying to find a silver lining from the Hall of Fame game, but yes, I have.
You went
That's as bad as the Hall of Fame game. In fact, that's actually quite apt. You've picked a film that is as bad as watching that Hall of Fame game, so
thank you, I tried.
Kudos to you, ironically. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I just want to start with a thank you to everybody listening. If you tuned in on YouTube to us being live during the Hall of Fame game, we just turned into our most viewed video ever. So thank you very much if you tuned into that. Over 1,500 views. It's modest, I realise. We are not a particularly big channel, but every like, every view counts to us. So thank you. We're going to kick off this show talking about a bit of news from the last 7 days. We're going to dig into training camp. There's been 2 sessions since we spoke to you last. And then we're going to be looking back at the Hall of Fame game, as regrettable as that may be. But first, please do join our Discord channel. Great place to be. Now we're in pre-season as things are ramping up. Things are going from good to great in there. So please come and join us. The link is in the live chat right now. If I can actually press Control V, that would be great. There we go. We've got the college football podcast coming up. And what are you talking about this week?
I've no idea.
Can I venture that you could talk about the freaks list, given that I just posted it in there?
You can venture that I'm going to talk about college football. That is one guarantee there. No, I need to decide with Ryan tomorrow very quickly. Yeah, the freaks list did come out. I'll probably talk about the freaks list a little bit. That's good fun. And yeah, the season's a few weeks back. We'll find something good. We always do. I've just been a bit busy over the weekend, so and then watching this game back. So yeah, we'll have something good though. We'll be live on Wednesday. So yeah, you're all good.
All right. Please do like this episode, sub to the podcast. You guys know what to do by now. We, of course, do have upcoming our 24-hour charity show. Now, I know that I've talked about it a couple of times, but we have got some very impressive guests lined up for us. Dare I mention who they are before it happens? Yes. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Who cares? We have got penciled in Nick Baumgartner from The Athletic, Jeff Risdon from Lions Wire and the Detroit Lions podcast. We have got Dave Burkett, TBC in terms of time. We should have Jeremy Reisman from POD. We should have Chris Perfett on for an extended run with us. We also have one other, but I can't remember. And we also have Kent B. Plassey of RAS fame. So we have got lots of people already agreed, and we're working on some other guests. We're going to have some fan call-ins. We're going to have some tape reviews of the top 3 picks in our NFL draft just gone. We're going to do a quiz, and then we'll be live for Lions Dolphins, as well as some post-game reaction, and then a final fan call-in before we wrap. We're going for 24 hours UK time, midnight to midnight, of course, Eastern time. That is 7 p.m. August 15 until 7 p.m. August 16. So hopefully you will come and support us with that. We are looking for a cause to donate 50% of the money to that is Detroit-based. If you have a cause which is close to your heart, please let us know, because we want to have several options to choose from that the guys can kind of pick from. The other 50% is going to go to Maggie's, which is a cancer charity in Edinburgh, which supported our own Stephen Collins. They provide psychologists for people going through it to keep their head above water mentally, as well as help for the families involved. So a really great charity, and we'd love to do something on the other side of the pond to raise money for. So please do get your suggestions into us. Be much appreciated. Right. News. Inside the Den did drop the day before the game with a look inside the draft room for 2025. And some tidbits were revealed, including that the team turned down multiple offers to stay and pick Tyreek Williams, who was Kelvin Shepard's favourite player in the draft, Sheila Fordham mentioned that Ratledge could play in centre in the footage, proving that this was part of the plan all along, regardless of Ragnar retiring. Dan Campbell said that Isaac Teslar will have an immediate role, that they couldn't believe that Miles Frazier fell to the 5th round as they were considering him in the 3rd, and that the team wanted both Hassanin and Dan Jackson, but sided with Hassanin in the 6th, and were elated that Jackson lasted until the 7th. Other pieces of news: the team adjusted Alex Anzalone's deal, bringing an end to that quote-unquote drama. They added 250 grand in base salary, which they fully guaranteed, as well as adding 750 grand in playtime bonuses. Of course, if he's in the roster come week 1, the entire salary for this year is guaranteed anyway. The NFL Top 100 continues on as we head towards the season. Hutch came in at 55th. Of course, the injury meaning he only played 5 games. The fact he was on there at all, I am actually slightly surprised by, given, he played less than a third of the season, but there we go. In an interview with Justin Rogers, Graham Glasgow revealed that he suffered a high ankle sprain in the first quarter of the divisional round game against the Commanders, which we, of course, went on to lose. Does some way of explaining his poor performance in that game. And former Lions quarterback Cam Sutton has been legally cleared from his, and I want to call it misdemeanor, but I know that has a legal meaning in the United States, but I think a misdemeanor is fine to call it that in terms of the normal meaning of the word. It allows for the next step in his grievance with the Lions about his dismissal and whether the Lions can reclaim his guaranteed money or not. Transactions-wise, the Lions have waived defensive lineman Raekwon Williams and waived injured the tight end Ian Deal. They've signed the offensive lineman Justin Heron and running back Jacob Sailors and activated Taylor Decker from the pup. Boys, obviously, Inside the Den has dominated the news this week. It's old news, but it's new news. That and anything from Anzalone or anything else that's really tickling your fancy this week in terms of bright points in the news?
Well, I think everyone here knows how much I love Inside the Den. So, yeah, I was up when that got posted, watching that in bed, and then watched it again in the morning just to, make sure I absorb everything. It's as good as usual. Obviously, I know we've got to take everything with a grain of salt. It's very easy for the media teams and that to clip up things, so it puts everything in the best light. It might be that, Sheila obviously mentioned that Ratledge could play centre, for example, but then they might have then gone on to talk about Jared Wilson, the actual Georgia centre who was taken after Ratledge, for instance. But I loved it, and then, yeah, I'm glad that the Anzalone drama has come to an end, even though it's kind of a no-win situation. Like, it's not exactly great for the team to add more money on, because that's less money they can use for Hutch extension and that. And also Anzalone is not happy because it's not a new deal. It's not more years. It's not loads more guaranteed money. So it's kind of no-win situation, but at least they've kind of come to some compromise where everyone can kind of grin and bear it and just get on with it.
Yeah, I don't think it was the resolution either of them wanted, but it seems to be the one that's got the job for them done for this year, and it seems increasingly likely now that this will be his last year, and then next year he'll go and test free agency. But as long as he's committed to the cause, he's got extra money to be able to aim for now. It's a shame, and maybe you never know, something might happen during the season. Something might happen. Circumstances change and whatnot, but. Yeah, at least he's training. At least we're all good with that. So, yeah, it did leave a little sour taste, but it's done. Let's just move on from that now. Yeah, Inside the Den's good as always. Although I will just say with a pinch of salt that all Brad's draft picks fall 3 levels below that he thinks they were going to be drafted. Pretty much every guy he drafts. I would have drafted them 3 rounds earlier, but, the way he hits, it's hard to blame him when he hits so high. And then, yeah, the rest... Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, some good stuff. I think Hutch is probably right where he is at the minute on the top 100. He has his season we expect him to have. He'll be a top 10 player next year for sure, but the injury will knock that back a bit. But yeah, everything else by the by.
All right, moving on to training camp, and we've got some overall notes and then just a little position-by-position analysis. So since the last time we spoke, only 2 public practices, a scrimmage on Wednesday last week before the DBs playing, or yesterday being Sunday, if you're listening to this after the fact. Teams, ran a scrimmage. Defense heavily won the day, which is usual for this time of the year. And then the DBs really showed out on Sunday's practice. The starting 5 all made plays. So going through the offense to start with, Quarterbacks, well, the passing was rough early in the scrimmage, but they pivoted to play action bootlegs to good effect. Goff and Hooker got the majority of the reps. Running backs wise, Sonic and Knuckles picked up offense after a rough start to the scrimmage, stringing together some good plays to lead the team to first scoring drive of the practice. Gibbs torched everyone on a wheel route and coverage drills, and the 2 running back sets are getting some heavy usage and were especially effective, with Monty as a lead blocker for Gibbs picking up lots of yards. Wide receivers wise, Amon-Ra and Goff connection is in mid-season form. Tim Patrick has got on the score sheet in scrimmaging. He did say of himself, I'm being useless right now, previously, so him scoring is a big for him. I think he needs to stack a few good days in camp. That was in a crossing pass and off a bootleg. Tassar struggled with press coverage against press man against Kirby in one-on-ones. Apparently the team are really trying to get him lots of reps against press man because he barely faced it in college, and if he can't get off that block, he's really going to struggle to be an X at the next level. So that really needs to be where he needs to grow. And Dominic Lovett looked good in one-on-ones getting open, but had some drops. Rinse and repeat when it comes to the game itself. Tight ends wise, Sam Laporta basically unstoppable in tackling drills and one-on-ones. Branch is the only one that can really keep up with him. And then on the offensive line in the interior, Glasgow's first team centre, Colon second, Nice third, continuing with the usual rotation. Awashika was in the first team guards in the latest practice, reward for good Hall of Fame play. And Aguakin was third team guard. He's not in the centre rotation, despite being the starting centre in the Hall of Fame game, which is especially interesting. Tackles-wise, Jamarco Jones got first-team reps in team drills due to Skipper's injury and Decker getting acclimatised. Boys, the offense seems to be hit and miss, struggling early, then coming back strong later on. I think maybe the wide receivers and tight ends are a strong point. Everyone else, it seems to be still a little bit of a struggle. And, that was kind of borne out in what we saw from the Hall of Fame game too.
Yeah, pretty much. It's obviously, just take it with a grain of salt, pretty much across the league. You look at any of teams, sort of practice reports right now, it will show that the defense are on top right now just because of the nature of the positions and that, I guess. But yeah, it's a bit, I don't want to say disconcerting, but yeah, it's a bit poor to see that it's not just in the Hall of Fame game. It was also in the scrimmage that passing just wasn't really there. I know we've got a lot of continuity in terms of running with Frank Fraley being run game coordinator. We've still got our top 2 backs, most of the offensive line, etc., etc. So it's the passing that needs to work out. So while it's great that Goff's got the connection with Amon-Ra and Laporta down still, needs to still pick up for us to sort of, when it comes to week 1, for me to be happy. But everything else is kind of expected. Love that Sonic and Knuckles are getting there. The 2 running back sets, which we've been calling for donkey's years, are finally coming, and I can already imagine in my head that draw play that got a lot of yards. The only thing is, and then the offensive line, I guess it's just them continuing the usual rotation, because we've heard for a while that one practice, Aguakin will be the second team centre, then the next one he'll be third team guard, third team centre. Seems to just doing this merry-go-round, though, given he's playing the Hall of Fame game, maybe this is a demotion and colon with how much slightly better, but the sort of he's better play maybe got rewarded with being bumped up to the second team centre. So basically to be expected for the most part. But yeah, there are a few little tiny signs that maybe the offense needs a tiny bit more work going into the next couple of weeks of preseason to really be confident going into week 1 against the Pack.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you see out of camp anyhow. One day the offense is good, one day the defense is good. I mean, specifically last year, they really seemed to bat between one another as to who was on top. They always seemed to adapt and find a way, and then the other teams adapted. So nothing that we've not really seen. And, the good news is for the most part, there's been very little on the injury front now. Not too much apart from Rakestraw, obviously, but while play seems to be very physical, it seems to be very competitive. We are not suffering too many knocks in there, which is obviously very, very good thing for us. So, yeah, it's interesting. You start seeing a few names a bit more and more, which is, you're starting to see some guys emerge now from the outsiders, the guys not a lock to make the 53, and you're like, oh, interesting. You're starting to see some of the cream rise, which is what you want at this point. 3 preseason games to go. Some of these guys hopefully will get expanded roles in those games to show it on the field as well as at practice. And yeah, the competition seems to be bubbling up very nicely for us, which is always a bonus.
Moving on to defense, defensive line wise, Hutch dominated, obviously, 3 sacks on third down situations to end drives. Keith Cooper and Pat O'Connor got some first team reps, continuing their good run. At linebacker, Campbell showed third-year improvement in scrimmage, making a number of key plays on early downs. And Turner was the best defender in a tackling drill, bringing down Sailors on both reps. Good to see my namesake doing some things. Cornerbacks. Arnold suffered a hamstring injury covering a deep route in the scrimmage. Be held out for a short while as precaution. An update on that injury-wise, I believe, was it wasn't believed to be serious, and he'll be back very soon. Rakestraw suffered a shoulder injury in camp on the same side. He suffered a rib contusion, and actually Terry and Arnold has posted about it, saying basically get well soon, which is not exactly the news that we wanted to hear from on the Rakestraw camp, but there we go. So we are expecting some bad news on that front. Rock Yassin getting reps at nickel and safety in the latest day of camp, and this along with injuries to Arnold and Rakestraw meant that DiCaprio Bootle got some first team reps. I know that Riz speculated he may not even make it to the next preseason game. Him taking first team reps is not exactly a step in the right direction there. Safeties branch everywhere in scrimmage and in practice, best of the DVEs according to reports, which should not be a surprise to anyone. Dan Jackson suffered a leg injury early in yesterday's practice. Don't believe we have an update on that as yet. No. And on special teams, Bates perfect in the latest day of camp after a rough start in the scrimmage, and kick returner battle was up for grabs. Stewart is still getting looks alongside JMO, Gibbs, Arnold, Reynolds, Lovett, and Kennedy, all of those listed by Pride of Detroit. Go and check out Pride of Detroit and Lions Wire in terms of their day-to-day breakdowns. This is a very short review of everything we're hearing out of all of the media guys. So go and support those guys and their more detailed coverage. Just before I throw it to these guys for the defense, special teams side of things, many thanks to Carlton Wood for the £10 donation. The donations do work. This is proof. Someone else has done it. $13.28, that is on the conversion. It says, breaking news, sleeper agent Ben Johnson carrying out mission Caleb as planned. Which is excellent. And what are you making of the defense? I know you said, it ebbs and flows, but some of this is not a surprise, and some of this is very welcome. Hutch and Campbell immediately come to mind.
Oh, no. Brian Branch immediately comes to mind. He's going to be the greatest player that ever plays for the Lions when all is said and done. I love him so much. He's an absolute monster. And you just hear about him and how good he's been. And he just keeps getting better and better and better. And it seems so few people can actually deal with him now. It's just, the growth is crazy. He's taken a backseat to Kirby with all, with Kirby's great last year and everything, but it's just he's bubbling there. He's ready to properly break out this year and be just one of the best DBs in football all time. And, just seeing how well he started an attack camp and that, and how great he's looking. He looks like he's in mid-season form already, the way he's playing. So, bet your bottom dollar he gets a pick week 1 against Green Bay. I'm calling that now. He's gonna start this season on fire and not stop. So I'm looking forward to him. Obviously, Hutch been back. That everything you hear about Hutch reassures you. Obviously, until he's playing those first reps in the NFL, though, there's always going to be a little bit of doubt in there about just where he's at. But it seems in terms of training, no one else can deal with him. And given the performances we saw from some depth guys the other day in the Hall of Fame game, etc., we're going to need him to be really good this year. So, yeah, it's always positive. You want your big playmakers to be standing out in camp, and our big playmakers are standing out. So, yeah, that's exactly what we want.
Yeah, I agree. When I typed up about DiCaprio Bootle, I did have pop up in my mind, and this is a niche reference for us Englishmen, but it was kind of watching the cricket today, and because we've had because we're still that bad, Chris Roke's coming out to bat with one arm. That's how it feels like with DiCaprio Bootle taking first team reps today, yesterday at camp because of the injuries. It feels like we're down to that point, and well, yes, okay. We know we've still got Robertson, who was coming off an injury himself, so was probably getting eased into things in team drills, and Arnold should be okay. Kind of shows that where we are at with stuff. Like, admittedly, that was also because Rocky Sin, who is the next man up off the bench, was taking the nickel and safety reps to try to expand his role with how good he looked in the preseason game. Spoilers for later, but it just shows that, yeah, this is what we could see in the season. We might get down to the point where someone like him is playing reps again. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it just shows how quickly the depth at secondary can fall off with one or two injuries, especially at corner. But it's nice to see that, yeah, Kirby's back from his knee injury. Branch is in mid-season form, and I completely agree. He will pick off Jordan Lovell. I think we all know how he's going to celebrate when he gets that pick six. Nice to see that the safety room's still kind of there, even if some of the players who do play in the Hall of Fame game have lost reps because of Rockison's expanded role. And it just a defensive line like Hutch showing out. I know people, it might continue the backup tackle narrative that kind of carried over from last year because he was going up against Dan Skipper for all these sacks. But the fact that he was drawing comparisons to JJ Watt and all these other players with how well he was performing in the scrimmage, definitely a nice reassurance because we kind of need him because he is a superstar. And when he's on form, he makes this entire defense just go that next level. We can go from being a middle of the pack defense that will not hold us back in games and can get us to the playoffs to a defense that can really shut down teams and ease the load on the offense and special teams, and potentially, at least initially, while the offensive line and the play calling struggles on offense might need to be worked out, we can fall back on the defense and be like, that's going to be a nice solid sort of 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 for us every week. We know what we get in there. Offense can take its time to work itself out.
All right, let's move on to the Hall of Fame game. The Lions ended up losing this one 34-7, getting their only points in the second quarter. The Chargers played Trey Lance most of the day. He threw 20 of the 23 passes they threw. DJ Ungolale only came in halfway through the fourth quarter, was it? Something like that. I think he played 1 or 2 series at most. Whereas Kyle Allen and Hendon Hooker did play for a half each, although Allen threw 14 passes to Hendon 6, which tells its own story on how the Lions, especially in the second half, were not able to convert anything at all. But also that Hooker was reluctant to throw, and he kind of regressed into himself a little bit and looked very much like Hendon Hooker of previous preseasons, who was uncertain and unwilling to rely on anything but his legs in the most part. Boys, it wasn't a pretty game. Before we get into some stats, some rises and fallers, what the snap counts might mean, position by position work, what's the overriding feeling that you have about the Lions after this game? Not a lot of players who played here are necessarily going to make the roster. So, as bad as it was, are we feeling bad about it? Or, is it pre-season and it's water off a duck's back and this is what it's for?
It's very difficult. Like, I've watched, specifically, I've watched the first half back again today, and I know people say preseason doesn't matter and they don't care, but I think there's a balance to be had. I think you do have to care to a degree because a lot of these guys are fighting for roster spots. Some are veterans fighting for their careers. Some are undrafted free agents fighting to get on a roster. Like, this is their opportunity to put a name for themselves or to get more reps going forward, to get more looks and joint practices going there. And you kind of want to see some guys really fighting out there for this. And at worst, you want to see technically sound football as well as can be. The little things you could control, which Dan always talks about, the fundamentals, you want to try and control those. Especially watching the first half with more of the guys who might have a shot at making the roster. There's just so many of them who are making stupid errors and not carrying out assignments right. And it frustrates you a little bit because you're like, this is your opportunity, guys. Like, I really want you to do well. And, the start of this game was so bad, it almost kind of ruled the second half mute because we got so far behind. And then you're just like, well, we're not going to try and get back into this because we're not going to overexert ourselves in a preseason game. At least when it's close, you can keep it semi-competitive. It kind of ruined the structure for the second half with how they played and just some boneheaded decisions, some silly mistakes. I find myself frustrated because, and especially there were some guys that I liked who I think have not done themselves well. I think there's a couple who have, and that was good to see. But I find myself frustrated because I do believe these games hold merit. That's where I look at it, and it's tough. But there were some good performances. There's some people I'm encouraged by, so that's where I'm at. It's a score is irrelevant, but watching very closely the coaches take with some of this stuff, it's tough watching for some of them.
Yeah, I'm halfway between because quite a lot of the ones that did play, at least in kind of the first half, of the ones that are pretty much going to make the 53, for the most part, did play well. Obviously, there's a certain guy that we'll come on to later that I was very high on. We signed him and he looked excellent. But yeah, there was some stuff there. So, especially the backup QB players, we'll get to that probably first, wasn't the best. The offensive play calling, some of the play structures, watching it back, I'm like, what was the point here? So there's a certain one that I know Jeremy Reisman's put up on Twitter of one of the second half plays that Hendon had like a play action rollout and he only had one option really on that side. Just some stuff there. And then on defense, again, some good performances, some bad performances. How much can you take away from it considering for the first half they were in drive started within our like 30, 3-4 times. So they were really backed up. They could only do so much. How much can you take away from that? But the good news is overall, the ones that are pretty much going to make the roster, the ones that we really want to look out for, they played well enough to, not exactly drop down into bubble watch as Detroit does. Most of them still are on the 53 right now, aside from maybe one or two.
It's difficult for me to divorce the poor performance from coaching because in my heart, I genuinely believe that the struggles they had were individual people not performing. But with two new coordinators, I would like to see some coalescence. And it is early in the pre-season, but you also do operate on confidence at a coordinator level as well as you do an individual player level. And we did not play complementary football, especially on defence. The cornerbacks couldn't cover. The defensive line didn't get much push up front, and the linebackers missed some assignments. You can say that those are individuals not doing their jobs, but were they put in a position to succeed? I think that if I frame this as not looking at the players, but looking at the coordinators, I don't think I have more questions than I did before, but I still have the same questions as to whether they get into the mix of it. The first time that they will call plays in a real-life situation with the first team will be snap 1 against the Packers. None of those first-team players are playing any of this preseason. We know that by now. And that's a little bit of a worry to me because how quickly are they going to acclimatise to things going well or things with their starters not going well and how to pivot? That's my big worry coming out of this, which is still the same worry we all had before, so nothing new. On the players' side, there were some individual poor performances for players I expect to make the roster, but mostly, as you've both indicated, the players who are going to make the roster had a little bit of a better day, and some people who were on the fringes or were outside maybe are now on the fringes or maybe on the inside, watching behind them rather than kind of trying to fight to get in there. I think a few people did work their way into thinking they might get in. So let's get into that now with some of your individual risers. And who do you want to pick out as someone that you thought did particularly well?
Come to me in a minute.
Ash gets free pick then.
There's only one choice for me, and it's the guy that when we signed him in free agency, everyone who's watched our podcast and listened for the time I've been on, know I love this guy. And boy, did he show why. Rock Sin, such a, not really a riser, because for me, he was already going to be outside corner 4-5 on the roster, doing all that stuff. But he showed you why he's that step above as much as he did have his most magnificent plays, why he's better than Kindlefield or shutout on special teams. The 2 goal line tackles he did to save touchdowns, really being the one corner in that game you can look at and say you covered well. Like, he was not targeted. He had pretty good coverage on his guy all throughout the first quarter he played, and then the team, obviously seeing he was doing that well, sat in for some of the younger guys. For someone who, was seen as a free agent vet signing just as a flyer, see if he can fill out the depth. He showed that he deserves to play on this level after a rough couple of years playing for the Ravens and the 49ers. He showed he's still got that little spark in there. That's why the team loved him, why I loved him. And I think now, safely say, he's going to be on the 53 come week 1, barring injury, obviously. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But for a team mostly of, that's in that first half defense that wasn't looking so good on the back end, he was the one guy you could point out and say, you did your job.
So I've got a couple. Instantly, Ahmed Hassanin was a winner from this. He was tremendous. You put up against a couple of rookie tackles out there and he made them look like chumps, as he should be. I thought the run defense was very good. I thought the technique was very good. I thought the way he was attacking his pass rushes was varied. And you could just say the motor and the energy. The player I put in Discord earlier, he fucking launches himself like a missile to get this running back after completely shedding the right tackle. He just played so well. And he's going to threaten, I'm telling you now, he's going to threaten a starting spot going into this year if he carries on playing like this. If he can show more of that run stuff and do it against better opposition as time goes on, there is really no excuse to keep him out of this team. He should get some good reps as a minimum anyhow in the rotation. I think one person who did shut down any notion that maybe he won't get there, maybe, it wasn't much in the first place. I thought Craig Reynolds was tremendous. And he showed that there is a vast gap between him and any other running back on this roster going for that running back 3 spot. Varky's not even close to him at this point. And the play I'd bring up to highlight that was his saving the pick 6. On that one play alone, he comes up to block, he blocks with the left tackle, he then picks up a late blitzer, 2 tackles on his own, and then he runs the best part of 60 yards with the DB having a 10-yard head start on him and hits him by the 6 and saves a touchdown. There's no one else on that roster in that running back room who does that at all. And if Varky or Robic or any of these guys wouldn't even have a sniff of getting his reps, they're going to have to do that. Every time that you think he might be in a bit of bother, he shows you why they love him so much. And I thought he was absolutely tremendous. There were other great guys. I thought Hallett did well in the safety role. A couple of little bits in there, but I thought he was great in the run game, made some really good run stops. He's good at pressure as well. This is one play he got submarine, gets back up, still going for the quarterback. He was showing a lot of energy in there. I was quite impressed with him. So yeah, there was certainly some good performances in this out of all the bad.
For my own guys, I'll take the low-hanging fruit into Slash, shall I? Guy was a class above the rest. Really didn't look like he belonged on that field. He should have been with everyone else. And to be honest, I think he's shown enough where you could consider holding him out now. I don't know how many more reps he needs. He needs to be getting off press coverage. You may not get that in a game. You can replicate that in a scrimmage, though. Give him as many scrimmage reps with the ones as you can. The trouble he's going to have is that he's still probably behind Tim Patrick in the pecking order, and that probably doesn't change right now. So at best, he's wide receiver 4, and with Raymond, he still might be 5. Do you protect that guy? I would be hammering him on special teams just to get him loads and loads of reps there. And in the scrimmages, plenty of time. But he looked a class above. I was really disappointed overall with the offensive line. Pretty totally. Colon came on in the second half, and I thought he acquitted himself well. I think there is one more spot in that offensive line between Arashika, Sorsdal, Colon, Muti, all of these guys. I think they're all fighting maybe for one spot. all of those guys actually had good days. I think Jamarco Jones might also be in that reckoning. I thought he was terrible. Sorry, I haven't
played his way off the roster.
I think so
disgusting
too.
performance from him.
Sorry,
Really
we're talking about players who went well first, aren't we? And then we'll get on to the bad. But yeah, so there were some depth offensive linemen who had good days in and amongst the bad. I'll do one more shout out. I thought Zach Horton looked at home in the fullback tight end role. I don't know whether there's a spot for that, but if there is, he might be playing his way into it. Ash,
if not for one of the best tackles I've ever seen from RJ Mickens, that's a touchdown that he would have sprung there. Like, that was so well done, that entire play. And like, that's one of the best tackles I've seen in the open field from Mickens. That's the only thing that stopped that thing being a tutty. Oh, tremendous.
Ash, you only picked one guy. Is there anyone else that you wanted to pick?
Think for a second. Yeah, I'll go for one of the offensive line as well. Actually, I'll go for a kind of a pair. So, because for me, they both played pretty well. I know one's got more sort of praise because, we just mentioned that big run that Craig Reynolds had. He was the guard blocking for it. But the sort of starting guards of Arashika and Muti didn't really put a foot wrong. Well, yes, they didn't exactly stand out aside from that Craig Reynolds run for Arashika. They also weren't the issue on that offensive line. It was the other pieces. So for me, they've definitely kept themselves at the forefront of that last offensive line spot sort of battle that we've have going on. To the fact that obviously Arashika spelled some of the first team guards yesterday when Mahogany and Ratledge were sort of pulled out for a bit of rest. So they're definitely still in the mix, and I look forward to watching them block for the next couple of weeks in the sort of second team sort of lines and seeing what they can do, because if one can really stand out and win that job, the other might be able to make it to practice squad. And there you've got two backup veteran interior offensive linemen for the guard spots that if something happens during the season, like Graham just doesn't look like it at centre and you need to move things out, you put Ratledge at centre and you can call one of these guys up and plug them in at right guard, left guard, wherever you need to. And hopefully offensive line won't really miss a beat. So for me, Alshik and Muti both kind of showed out and were like, well, showed out in a quiet way and were like, we're here, we're good, you don't need to worry about us.
Right, let's pivot to the players who might be playing themselves out of a roster spot or maybe falling down the pecking order, even if they're staying within it. Maybe I'll take the bullet on this one by going first. And I've already mentioned one in Jamarco Jones, who, frankly, with Dan Skipper, who was the top-rated offensive player for the Lions in this game, I will point out, but he's had a pretty rubbish camp, and he's shown time and time again he's not the best tackle in the world. Jones has a route to the roster. There's no doubt that if he played well, the Lions could do with actually having a proper backup tackle. He proved that he wasn't it. He was fairly woeful. He was undisciplined. I think he attracted one of the few penalties that was called in the game, which is just terrible. When you're having people not call things for false starts and all that sort of stuff, the fact that he actually got called for one's pretty remarkable. And if I can pick someone on defense, my namesake, I'll pick Ezekiel Turner. I mean, I'm not sure that he ever really has a shot to this roster anyway. But he acquitted himself okay last season. He had some bright spots in otherwise average to slightly below average play. But he was pretty bad, especially, in coverage. And, it's not really his game, but he needs to be better than he was. I mean, it was a terrible performance all round for that defense, but he especially stood out for me as someone who kind of just looked a bit lost out there. Who wants to come in next?
Where do you start? Zach Cunningham was disgusting. His spot on this roster should be right under threat. There was a piss-poor weak arm tackle on Amari and Hampton on that first drive that ended up going for 9 yards. Just held a limp fucking arm out here. I don't want to see that. He gets bench pressed by 5'8" Kamani Vidal into the end zone. Like, the guy goes down. What does he do? He gets on top of him and puts his arms around him. What the hell's that going to do? You got a 5'8" guy who carries you into the end zone. You should be ashamed of that yourself. You missed a tackle on a punt return on special teams, which he should have had. Like, he was just... No. this guy's played in the NFL. This guy's got NFL starting reps. This is one of the guys who really annoyed me in this one. I thought he was absolutely awful all round, and he might be saved by the fact that the rest of them probably aren't that good either in that battle. You mentioned Ezekiel Turner, guys like that, but he's not a lock for the roster. Not even close for me. If he gets cut, I wouldn't be surprised. He was one who stood out for me right away, who was really bad.
I hate to pick him out because this podcast kind of been a big advocate for him to maybe push a bar on the roster, but Jacoby Keeney-James, just, yeah, like his big trump card was that he was supposed to be good on special teams. And he just didn't look good at all. Unfortunately, and on offense, obviously, barely made an impact. Like, obviously, I know the top guys all got catch. The other one that really got a catch was Meek. So for him to not make an impact on offense, to maybe stand out with that speed, kind of disappointing. And then defense, I'll take the easy one. I know, obviously, he's got a carrying injury, but Rakestraw, he was given a chance here to really show himself. This is why I drafted second round last year. Big physical, run defending corner who plays bigger than his size. I know he's carrying a chest contusion, but some of the tackle attempts he was doing and the coverage as well, it just wasn't there for him. And I know now he's got the shoulder injury, which, by all accounts we said earlier, might rule him out for a bit. It's not a good look, and yeah, it just shows that we need those Rockisons. When Cadell Dorsey comes back from his injury, we need those kind of guys who can, step in on the outside and do a decent job, because Rakestraw might need another year, which ain't exactly the best thing to say about last year's second round pick that everyone had high hopes for.
I mean, yeah, you're right. He would have been on mine as well. Like the way Lambert Smith mugged him off on that deep downfield threat. He just gives him a simple stutter inside, then hits to the edge, and his ankles get broken. You're like, Lambert Smith's not exactly the most technical runner either. He's not going to be the creme de la creme of what you come up against. And the fact that he just did him on such a simple move, got the separation, had 3 clear yards on him, gives Trey Lance an easy out on what was, I think, a third down at the time. And you're like, come on, man. Like, you're up in press against him. Make him work. You didn't even touch him. You fell on the ground and let him run past you. It's embarrassing. So, and he's one of the first team. You would say is a guy who could be a first team or one of the few we saw. And it was indicative of the stupid little mistakes that they were making. So absolutely he should go into that one as well. I don't know if you can give a negative to a play, but also we start the year with bootlegs to tight ends again. I'm so fucking tired of them. 2 on the first drive. 2 on the first drive. And honestly, I give the entire defense a negative for that touchdown. They bit on a run play where Trey Lance was 3 yards away from Amarian Hampton and never even tried to hand the ball off to him. And they all bit on a run play to the left-hand side. And you can see Strickland going, fuck, like he's gone. And it's the bootleg out. Just somebody sit them in a room, show them the tape, and show them how to fucking deal with it. Like, I started getting hives when I saw that again. So I'm like, no more. I do not want to see that play again. No more. Can one DB or one linebacker look into the backfield and think, this ain't going to the running back. He's going to roll outside. Let's cover. Please. I know they're the seconds and the thirds, but still, this is basic shit. I'm giving it down for those plays. That is a negative. I won't want to see him again.
All right, going to pivot slightly here and start looking at snap counts. So, on offense, the players who had the most reps were led by Dominic Lovett with 36, Tesla, Agwakin, Jones, Mooti, and Kyle Allen with 32. Also above 27 were Arashika, Yaboa, and Dan Skip. At the bottom, less than 12, we had Jacoby Keeney-James, Malik Taylor, Jacob Sailors, and Ronnie Bell. The point that I want to make here, I think, is that for some of the players, and in fact it's not borne out by the offense massively, but the players that they needed to find the most out about the ones that are maybe on the roster bubble or those ones that need time are the ones who are getting reps. Those ones they know a little bit more about actually didn't take as much. I know a lot was made of Craig Reynolds and the fact that he got some heavy usage, but he only had 23 snaps. Mason Miller, 21 snaps. There's some suggestion he may get cut after having what was described as a horrific camp so far. But if you have a look at, Lovett and Tesla, Aguakin, Jones, Moody, these are all guys that boys needed kind of reps to see whether they could make it on this roster. And if you have a look at that collection of skill position players at the bottom, who didn't get much time in Keeney James, Taylor, Sailors, and Bell, I'd venture to say their chances are slim going forward because, frankly, they're on the outside looking in and they weren't given a shot. I think that says a lot about them.
Yeah, so to go to those depth receivers first, and I think I mentioned it to you and the when we were watching the facts, especially for Malik Taylor and Ronnie Bell, the two people I kind of had as the backup, the Ys who would play a lot because Tesla and Meeks are true X's and Kennedy and Lovett and Keeney James are all slot receivers. It's like, we haven't really heard much about Malik Taylor and Ronnie Bell. Here's their chance they've got basically one side of the field locked down. That's their role. They'll play it. The fact that Tom Kennedy was playing that role in front of them said it all. They are just camp bodies. They are gone. They probably won't even make the practice squad. They're just here to make up the numbers and be pass catchers for the third team offense when they're in camp, which kind of sucks because obviously Ronnie Bell's got some local connections. Malik Taylor, at least we don't let him go back to the Packers in camp, I guess, and get some chemistry with Jordan Love. So when we play him later in the season, he can be the one random receiver they also have golf against us every bloody year. But yeah, it says a lot that they kind of didn't get any run. While the top guys, Lovett, Tesla, Ogurkun, those kind of three young players who needed a lot of reps, and Ogurkun with the 32 basically played, and with Tesla as well, they played the entire first half on the offense. Lovett got a few more snaps in the second half just to get him reps because Tesla showed out. Ogurkun, changing the entire offensive line, he's got chemistry with the guys he's playing with, can't really mix him up. It is telling that the young guys need to see a lot of either top three in terms of the snap takers because they're the ones that need it. I know you mentioned earlier that maybe you'll sit Tesla for the rest of the preseason. I think he's going to continue getting this treatment where he gets the first half of games just to get in the game reps because you might not get press a lot of the time. Don't think which will much this week against the Falcons, for instance. But getting him those sort of reps of just being used to the position, even if it is he's running a 15-yard dig and he's not going to get targeted, but just getting him those reps because I mentioned it again on the podcast to you when he was running one of those digs, the cut he did was so rounded that it made it easy for the DB to stick with him. Just getting his reps just to practice the route running in a game scenario against a cornerback he's not practiced against much, if at all, in the case of this week against the Falcons, for instance. It's going to do him a lot of good. Same with Lovett, just getting him those reps, seeing what he's like against NFL competition. And then Ogurkun, it's a battle for that backup snap center position right now. And he might get the second half this week against the Falcons because Colon and Niche might be above him now in the rotation.
I can see why the Lions like Ogurkun. And Dan, like Dan says, it's like with when you're talking about Manu and that you have ups and downs, and you've got to get the consistency with it. But like he had a very bad first drive. Like there were two plays on the first drive. He was made toast off by guys on there. But then there's other plays where he works really well in the tandem blocks with Muti and Awashika. There was the second Allen throw when he threw that fucking awful thing into the end zone, and he was up against Bonner, I think it was, and he was really good against him. Like they were fighting, he gave him nothing. He had such a good rep against him, and I can see that it's just the inconsistency in the play, but there's something there with him. There's absolutely something there with him, and I think that's why they still gave him so many reps despite having a couple of bad ones. He just needs more time. So I would still carry on playing him there and letting him develop. You don't just give him one game and then give up on him. I thought there was enough good plays in there to warrant him carrying on. As I say, Moody looked good. Moody made some really good blocks downfield. I know they highlighted Reynolds' screen one. There was him, there was Zylstra, there was Lovett, they all block perfectly for that. Like, he was getting downfield, looks good. I think Moody would be good for this roster. I think he could potentially go if he carries on playing the way that he is. And I think you got what you want of him. We love it getting so many. You saw the good and bad, but he's a seventh round receiver. You saw some really good things from him. You saw some really bad things from him, but that's growth. That's what these reps are here for. If by the end of the fourth game he's starting to look a bit more polished and a bit more consistent, then job done. That's what you want from preseason with these guys. So stick with them, keep giving them games, keep letting them develop, and you run with it. But certainly for the ones who played a great deal, they were. I thought there were some good performances out there from some of those guys. So I think some of them have at least kept themselves in the picture. But I think outside of those top three, I think Jamarco Jones has fucked himself completely. I mean, I was shocked with how bad he was, and I've really wanted him to come up and do well, but backup tackle is something the Lions they've got to go out of house to address now, because there's just nobody in house who's going to fix that role going into this year at all. I think that will be the one thing I'd take away if I'm thinking, maybe we need to get some more guys in. It is now definitely tackle. It's a glaring need for us.
Let me pivot the snap count discussion to the defensive side of the ball. The guys that took more than 30 reps in this game for the Lions were headed by Ezekiel Turner with 47, Anthony Pittman with 44, Keith Cooper 38, Tyson Russell 36, Dan Jackson 36, DiCaprio Boodle 36, Miles Adams 36, and Nate Lynn 33. Worth mentioning in the next group of people, 29, was also Ian Kennelly. The guys that took less than 20 reps were Maurice Norris, Nick Whiteside, Grant Stewart, Avonte Maddox, Rock Ya-Sin, Zach Cunningham, Mitchell Agude, Patrick O'Connor, Alkini Mohammed, Broderick Martin, and Daron Gilbert. And I think there's a story to tell in these as well. Actually, at the top of the defensive guys, I would argue, is a collection of people very much on the outside looking in. Turner, Keith Cooper, although he could get into that discussion. I think he's one of the more closer ones to the 53 than the others. DiCaprio Bootle, Miles Adams, I don't think is probably going to be up there at this moment. Nate Lynn, again, I don't think he's going to be up there at this moment. He could play his way into the discussion. Pittman maybe gets in as a special teamer, I don't know, but I would have thought he would be on the outside looking in too. The only one of that entire group none of them. Dan Jackson is the only one because he's a draft pick that you maybe might think he's more in than out. And even then, with how he's been doing in camp and his play in general, I'm not sure that's even true. So I think a lot of the guys that took heavy snaps on defense are ones on the outside looking in. Whereas if you have a look at the guys that didn't play many reps, you're looking at Avonte Maddox and Rock Ya-Sin, who Ya-Sin was probably on the bubble or on the fringes, and I think he's very much in at this point now. Other than that, you've got people like O'Connor and Mohammed who are probably on the inside. And then you've got a couple of guys who might be on the fringes like Broderick Martin, who only got 12 snaps. Given that he needs reps, it feels like the team have made their decision on him already. Daron Gilbert only getting 3 reps is weird to me. And then Agude's probably on the outside. Nick Whiteside's on the outside. Maurice Norris will have to speak about safety 4. The next lowest guy was Ahmed Hassanin, which is weird to me to be mentioned in this group of people because the lower rep guys seem to be the ones that are in. And of course, he's probably going to be in. He's a 6th round pick, though. You can never be sure. But he almost played his way out of reps because maybe you almost protected him. But this is almost a reversal, maybe, of the offensive side, where the guys who took a lot of reps were kind of on the fringes trying to play their way in. On defense, that seemed to not be the case at all.
I mean,
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean, the only thing you would give them is that they were put in some pretty shitty situations. Like fumble first play of the game, the pick back to the 6. They were not put in some good situations, but at the same point, there were a lot of drives that had to go far down the field that they were bad in. And yeah, I agree. At the top, nobody did themselves. You've got to go down to Nate Lynn and Ian Kennelly, both of whom I thought were tremendous. But there's nobody in that top group of guys who did anything. You hear about Keith Cooper Jr. having a great camp. No pressures. Trey Lance may as well have sat back there with a cigar and just thrown darts all day. Like, it's same old story. 15 pressures, 1 sack, no hits, no nothing, no end product from any of them. Hassanin was the only one who looked remotely dangerous, and he didn't play that many snaps because he's going to the roster. Pittman played his way off the team. He was awful. Again, another who you would expect better of him at his point in time. The tackling was rough. The fumble at the start of the game, I was watching, his block on special teams was lazy. I know Stewart runs into the back of him, but he just gets held up and he looks like he's playing at 50%. It was one of the most half-assed blocks I've ever seen. So, Stewart runs into the back of him then, and then that thing's out. It just sets the tone for it. That's what he's known for. His special teams was rubbish. So, that all these linebackers are trying to play their way out of contention. It's terrible. But then on the outside, I thought Lynn again did it last year. The guy is just doing it in preseason, and you can't ask more of him. Like, you send him out there to do a job, he does a job, he looks way better than everyone else you've got out there who are the bigger prospects. And, he's tremendous. He needs an opportunity. He needs to start in one of these games and just be given a full game to go out there and say, look, now's your opportunity. He needs to be given priority when it comes to scrimmages with these other teams and show, right, let's see what you can do against some of these other guys. And then Kennelly as well. Like, he's just, when you say that preseason games matter for these guys, and that's why I do grade them a bit more, I'm a bit more serious with it rather than saying it's preseason. These guys should want it because it might be their only opportunity to make a roster. He's playing like this is genuinely his last chance to make the roster, and he's giving everything he's got. No more so than that king awesome spear that he put down. Like, that is just, you want to get noticed, you do that. Like, there were a couple of plays where you're like, okay, there are a couple of loose tackles and stuff like that. He's an undrafted free agent out of Grand Valley State. He's going to make some errors, but he's making way more good plays than bad. And again, in that safety room, it's really hotting up there, but Jackson's hurt. I'm not going to take him over Kennelly if it carries on the way it is. Like, force the guy in there. You've got to give him again an opportunity, give him more reps, give him more exposure, see what they can do with it. So yeah, a lot of the guys at the top didn't do well, but those two certainly did. And I'm backing. I hope both of them really get the opportunity to put their claim forward because they were one of the few ones who looked like they actually gave a damn. And for me, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I'll give you one guess to how many snaps the defense faced in the first quarter.
They held the ball for most of it, didn't they?
Yep, but short field. They took 17 snaps because that's how many Grant Stewart, Vontae Maddox, Rocky Sid, and Zach Cunningham all faced. They had played the first quarter, then they were sat for everyone else. And the only one of those that really showed out in a good way was Yasin, as we mentioned. Maddox was okay. But then, yeah, you look at the other guys. Stewart, defense played okay. Obviously got the sack where he got flipped over by the running back, managed to get back up and get the sack, which is an indictment on our defensive line at that point, because how is a guy who was literally on the ground, sort of chop blocks by a running back in a way, flipped over and still managed to get to the quarterback before you did? What does that say about you? And then Cunningham, as you mentioned, for someone who we've been told this is a guy who, if the thing doesn't work out, Vanzalone could come in and start the wheel. He did not look good at all for the most part. So it's kind of disappointing. But yeah, I agree. Like Kennelly, Lynn, these guys who kind of were the second ones up, got sort of the most of the snaps and developmental stuff, especially Kennelly, who wasn't supposed to play because he was coming in with an injury. They showed why they're on the roster and why they're fighting to get onto the safety 4, edge rusher 5-6. I love Nate Lynn. I loved him last year when we profiled him for the UDFA show and then obviously got injured. So for him to come and show it now after the injury and when we brought in Hassanin, brought in all these other guys, the fact that he's flashing as one of our edge rushers makes me happy. And I hope, he does get the start against the Falcons because they don't really have a good offensive line. But I know obviously it's come out that we're not facing Penix or Kirk Cousins, though I'd love to see him against Kirk Cousins because he's immobile as hell. But he's going up against Easton Stick. Like, what a perfect chance to show what you've got. Okay, you've gone up against Trey Lance, former first overall pick. Now someone who's picked and day 3 and is a QB3 for a really bad team that's going through a lot of growing pains on offense. Perfect chance for Lynn, Hassanin, Kennedy, these young guys at the bottom of the roster to really show out because, some of the veteran guys like Bootle, like Tyson Russell, like Pittman, who really so right now, had the leg up because his special teams didn't look good on that and only played a lot of snaps because he's our best Sam and he's technically our third Mike right now. It's not looking good for them. So yeah, these young guys who are earning more snaps now, it's very good for them.
Okay, let's just go position by position to see maybe what has changed a little bit. For me, boys, starting at quarterback, I'm just saying no change at this point. They're both kind of in the wilderness a bit for me. Maybe even Carl Allen has slightly put himself ahead of Hooker.
Neither of them deserve to move. Like, there doesn't deserve to be an outright winner here so far. But
yeah, my only note is that I'm disappointed, considering what we heard from reports out of camp about Hooker, about his decision making being better. He's able to read defenses and that. And Matt can back me up because I literally said it, and then it's come out in Jeremy when it's in the thing. The amount of times there would be like one bit of pressure, and instead of stepping up into it when he's got a clear pocket in front of him, he just took it and run. It disappointed me a bit, especially when he then took the hit that could have gave him concussion. It's getting to last chance saloons now where, we're turning to Kyle Allen, who is still getting paychecks from when he came in, when Heineke and Cam Newton went down for the Carolina Panthers, somehow went 5-1 in the way that random quarterbacks always do for the Carolina Panthers every couple of years, getting paychecks for that. The fact that, what Allen threw the 2 interceptions, they both kind of looked the same as passers, really. Not a good look for Hooker, who is supposed to be sort of developmental guy, the guy that we trust in. This is just supposed to be kick up the boot of the arse for him. Maybe it's because he's playing with third team offensive line, third team sort of receivers and that. He's also going up against third team defensive players as well. And it's just, the decision making wasn't there. Maybe it's just because he panicked a bit and he's got a bit of the yips, but we cannot see that on Friday. If it looks like that on Friday as well, we seriously need to consider other options at QB because Hooker and it's coming to that last chance saloon with me now where if I don't see it in the next couple of weeks, even tiny bits of development and processing, I can't trust him.
He had the dirty look fired at him from Campbell on the sideline. That's reserved for players who are about done on the roster. I remember Julian Aquara getting a very dirty look in a similar way from him just before his ass finally got cut off the roster. Like, I think it was when he scrambled on one play and it was, the play was designed for him. The pass was there. He didn't make it. He ran off. And Dan looked at him with daggers. So I think the fact, again, that they really just tried to, down 17, they ran the ball a lot in the second half. They're like, it's not good for him. I thought Kyle Allen was better than a lot of people would say. Outside, let's put the 2 interceptions to one thing. His throws, for the very most part, were right on the bucket. Like, they were in stride. The guys got good yak off them. They were very well placed. Obviously, the Lovett one he dropped, that was perfectly positioned. The first pick I thought was a very good play by Miles Purchase, and it's not because he's an Iowa State DB. It was put in Kennedy's hands, but he really jumped the route very well. I don't think it was entirely on him. Second one was entirely on him. It's one of the worst throws I've ever seen, but I think Kyle Allen did a good job. And the team didn't help him with some of the drives and mistakes that were made and positions he was put in. And there were a load of false start penalties and that as well. So I think Allen did help himself a little bit whilst Hooker didn't. But obviously they'll rotate and we'll see it again. But neither of them earned that spot. That is the lowdown.
See, I'm the opposite. When Lola and Freya stop barking at me, I'm on the opposite way around with the throws. So for me, the first interception is entirely on Kyle Allen. It's half a second too late, so the DB could read it and jump the ball really easily. The second one should have been a penalty for illegal contact on Tesla because that DB's hands were on Tesla past the 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. Stopped him on his route, meant that the deep ball that Tesla would have had a 50-50 chance for with his body to jump up with. He's not there on time. So timing throw to him at the front pylon, read by the safety because the timing's off and he comes down with it quite easily. So for me, it's the opposite way around where second throw's really good, just missed penalty by the refs. The first one, just half second too late out, easy read for the DB, just comes and gets it and clear field to the 6 where Craig Reynolds does Craig Reynolds things. But I agree. It's kind of like with Kindle Vildor, where he's just overshadowed by the bad couple of plays he's got. Allen was the better of the QBs. He did make some really good throws, like the 2 before the interception to Tesla, on that drive. Really good throws. It's just, that first interception was just mind-boggling to me. Like, it's a timing route and you're half a second too late for it.
Just on Hooker's interception, I've said it before, I say it again. Said it to Ant just before we went live as well. It's a DPI, and it's not even close. A deep ball down the seam to Lovett, who beats his man. DB's holding his jersey all the way down the route and then yanks him to get into the 50-50 to then nick it away from Lovett. If the yank doesn't happen, the ball's probably underthrown because Lovett isn't held back as much. However, the DB's not getting anywhere close to that ball. So you can wipe an interception off the stat sheet for him because it should never have been so. Now, I'm not going to complain about the officiating because who cares? But I do think that we look on it slightly differently. Obviously, would have had no impact on the game, though, because we were all at sea. Moving on to the running back side, I don't see any changes here whatsoever. Ant, do you?
You know what? I think Jabari Small showed enough to get a bigger workload, especially if Varkey continues to be injured and can't participate. I thought I saw some nice things from Jabari Small. So obviously it's going to take a lot for this to be a conversation, but in terms of doing what he could with the reps he was given, I liked what I saw from him. So yeah, I'd roll with him, give him a bill. I don't think we need to play Craig anymore, to be fair. I would take Craig out the firing line and let him get his roster spot ready. Let's let Small see what he can do. Give him a full load, see what he can do against the Falcons, and make his case.
Yeah, I agree. Like, hopefully Varkey will be back from his injury to play on Friday. But yeah, play Reynolds only on like the kick return roll to see what he's got there. I know he's technically the incumbent there, but with the rotation it's in happening camp, just give him a couple of those reps. But yeah, he should only be like a break glass in case of Merch as the option at running back. I'm going to call them UDFAs, like the camp signings, see what they've got, especially behind the second team line, because they might get a bit better blocking. But yeah, I'd like Small in the small, like, pardon upon the small part we saw from him. Give him a few more reps. But for me, if Buck is healthy on Friday, he's still getting a boatload of the reps just because he's that wild card option. I want to see what we got out of, and he needs the reps.
Moving on to wide receivers, do you see much movement in the pecking order area, Han?
No, I think the fact that Lovett got nearly 50% of the targets on the evening would show you that they're pretty invested in taking him along with them. Like you say, so good and bad. I think Lovett's snap count needs to stay high. I would treat him like he's an undrafted free agent and not a draft pick. I would, because you saw the good, you saw the bad. For me, I saw more good than bad, and you just want to get that consistency right with him. And it's, do we even take him? Do we even take that many receivers? So I would just carry on playing the hell out of him and just, letting him develop, see how good he can get. I would try and look at some of the others, though, but it looks pretty damning. Like, none of the other receivers got involved whatsoever, and they didn't give any targets to them at all, which is crazy. Whether that was deliberate, just to see what Lovett can do, maybe, but I'd like to see some of these outsiders given a bit more of a chance, because with Lovett, take Tesla out. But I think Lovett's really solidified himself as the front runner for the last roster spot for receiver. I think that was in doubt before. I think it's a little less in doubt now.
Yeah, I'd still keep Tesla on there because obviously, as I mentioned earlier, I want him to get the reps practicing the route running and that. But I agree, yeah, Lovett, despite obviously what happened in the dropsies he had and then the 50-50 interception that got rest of his hands should have been penalties you mentioned. He did look good. But yeah, I want to see more from like Jackson Meeks because I know he got the other catch for 5 yards, but a bit more from him, a bit more from the other guys that played, like Malik Taylor and that, because they're not even listed on PFF with a receiving grade because they just weren't targeted at all. But for me, Lovett's definitely got to step up, but it's between him getting in as wide receiver 6 and Zach Horton, as we're getting to with the Titans, whether him playing fullback, is that more important to us than wide receiver 6, who we slot for a special teams guy? Interesting battle to see. So he's definitely someone I'm still getting reps to see what he's got in his next couple of games because, yeah, for me, it's between him and Horton right now.
I think the only movement I see is Jacoby Keeney-James really has no shot now. I think he's dead, unfortunately, which is a shame. because I really have been pulling for him. I, again, like Ant, would give Lovett all the reps possible. And Tesla, like I said earlier, I don't care about his preseason reps anymore. Give him everything we can throw at him for the stuff he needs to improve on in scrimmages. Let's move to tight end. The players that actually played in this game: Zylstra, Yeboah, and Horton as a tight end fullback role. Obviously, Yeboah got an injury. Zylstra was credited with allowing a sack, although that seemed unfortunate on his behalf when it was really the offensive line that put him in a bad spot. Horton played okay. Any movement for you guys on this one?
I thought Yeboah was tremendous at blocking. I think that alone has put him in the conversation to maybe get on the, depending on the severity of the injury. I thought he was tremendous, and he really fit in with what we want with him, especially getting him out on the screens and stuff like that. So for me, Kenny's really staked his claim. I'm still not sold on Shane Binder 3 yet. I think the battle would be active as far as I'm concerned, and obviously if he's hurt, then Shane's probably going to get it. But at the same point, I like what Horton's done as well. This is going to be a very tough choice, because we saw what having the fullback in can do for the run game, and he executed very well. He's another who's, you talk about, and I said right at the very beginning, preseason's about technique, about executing the little things right and showing you can do that, and he did. So it would be hypocritical of me to say that he's not enhanced his chances, because he took what he could. So I think it's very intriguing now. I don't think Shane Zylstra is safe at all. I think these two are going to be biting at his heels. And let it continue. Let them continue to push each other and see who comes up out of it. But Yeboah and Horton have definitely, they're up. They're up for sure. I'm not saying Zylstra did out wrong. I just think, there's a battle to be had there.
Yeah, I completely agree. As the usual, saying Zylstra is not long for the roster guy. Watch him just absolutely ball out on Friday. But for sure, his chances went down a tiny bit in the game. And then Horton, especially his chance making the roster, went up just because he was so good at fullback role. And when he was played in line, he looks good enough. And then Yeboah, before the injury, he looks pretty damn good as well. So that battle for tight end 3, 4, if we do carry 4, as I said, or wide receiver 6 or whatever, that has become a lot more of something to keep an eye on in the next couple of weeks in the games and camp, because, it could be that we enter week 1 and it's obviously the two incumbents, but then Yeboah and Horton are other two tight ends on the roster, and Zylstra is on the practice squad as a break glass in case emergency option, which wouldn't be the worst thing for the team, in my opinion, but is what it is.
Moving over to the offensive line. Obviously, no movement up front in the first team. Very little players actually played. What about the rest of these guys, boys? I'm going to say that Giovanni Manu suddenly gets bumped up. And you know what? I don't think he looked half bad. I think he looked better than Jones. So, I think there was one particular rep where he blocks the inside and then managed to react to a stunter coming around the outside. And I mean, that's only one particular rep in many, but, I think he's the big winner out of it. And I don't think he'd be played particularly well to do it, but he wasn't a liability. Otherwise, I mentioned Colon before. Sorsdal, is it too little too late at this point? He had a good day. What about the rest of you guys?
I mean, he did what was asked of him. No one else is stepping up at the tackle position there. I think Sorsdal did himself. He didn't do himself no harm. I think he probably still needs to do a lot more. But you talk about building blocks. He's put the first building block there. Now he needs to start building on that. And if he can, then there'll be a roster spot for him. I mean, Manu, they said great, but he got the second half and the game was dead. And, that Chargers D-line wasn't even really trying at that point. And he still looks bad against the run. Like, his build, his size, he should be, like, the run stuff should be the best stuff first, not the pass pro stuff. He still doesn't look good against the run. There's still a lot of polish in there. I can see what Jeff means. And they've said he's gone right back to being up and down in camp again afterwards. Like, it's just... He's still way too off. Like, the consistency is way too bad there. There were some good pass block reps, but they're just little snaps. He's not ready to be a backup tackle in the NFL, so of course they'll take him on the roster, but I don't think he's gone up. If he's gone up, it's vicariously because everyone else has been shit. So the tackles, no, you say outside of, Sorsdal been decent for the day. The rest of them I'm not inspired at all. I'm not confident in them at all. And the one the one guy I thought might save us in, Jamarco Jones looked terrible. So I'm definitely looking for outside help because, we don't have any good depth here right now, and I don't think that's too harsh to say.
Yeah, and the sad news is, I know obviously we mentioned earlier we have signed another offensive tackle with support of the news with Skips. I think it was an high ankle sprain, so he might be out for a while. So we've got Justin Heron in. Justin Heron is yet another Brad Home special because boy is that guy made out of glass. If he is the saviour, we are not looking good because he's Marcus Davenport at tackle, which ain't good. Like we all know how a certain crew member feels about Marcus Davenport's injury histories, having that offensive tackle, which is just as much of an impact position, and unlike edge rush, you get rotated. If you're starter the offensive line, you play all the snaps unless you get injured. We are not doing a Matt Patricia tackle rotation here in these parts. So yeah, Manu went up for me a slight bit, but that's because Skip stayed around the same. Jamarco Jones went down just because the false starts and that. Like, it did annoy me. I'm really high on him as well, and he's let himself down. The big movement for me is at the centre position with Ogukun not looking as good in that first half, and Colon looking decent at it in the second half. There's a kind of bit of change there where Colon looks a bit more likely to make the roster. Coogan's gone down. But again, this is week one, and we've got to bear in mind, for the most part, they're going up against, especially in that first half, they're going up against guys who've started a load of games for this in this league. Like, I think both starters, obviously one being former Detroit Lion Sean Hand, they're guys that started quite a lot of games for the Chargers last year. So maybe it's a bit unfair to judge him when he's going up against actual decent level quality NFL players rather than UDFAs and special teams guys. But for me, yeah, the most part was just movement from Manu vicariously by Jamarco Jones going down, and then just slight changes in the interior battles for the depth. There's nothing really, major here. Like as I said, Muti and Arashik were the big performers, and they're staying where they are because they are what they are. We know what they are.
Moving on to the defensive tackles, guys who actually played Pat O'Connor, Broderick Martin, Miles Adams, Chris Smith, Keith Cooper. Those that obviously didn't include Makai Wingo, Roy Lopez, Tyler Williams, DJ Reader, Ali McNeil. I listed injured players, dull. Any movement here? I mean, there doesn't appear to be a lot of room on this roster for this position.
I thought the only one who really has a shot of the roster is Pat O'Connor, and I thought he looked bad. He didn't have his best game. Should have got pinged for an offside, which he didn't. Couple of busted tackles I remember in there. Like you talk about these guys doing really well in camp, but you just want to see a little bit more on the game day there. But outside, I don't think none of the interior guys looked particularly great for me. There was zero pressure coming through the interior to the quarterback, which is obviously the worry we've got going into the season at large. No one's really stepped up to claim that, I might be the pass rush option for you in the interior. No one did that. So I don't think there's really any change here. I think a lot of these guys are just going to see the practice squad. I'm not really fussed outside of that.
Yeah, same. Pat O'Connor perhaps got a slight bump just because I think he got the first quarter treatment, then got pulled. I know it didn't look too good, but maybe that's because he was doing the old playing inside, playing outside, wasn't really allowed to settle into one position. But yeah, just nothing really much here in terms of movement for me based on this game. It's going to be something we have to keep an eye on, unfortunately.
Yeah, the only person who really moved up is Keith Cooper for me. He's kind of taken himself really solidifying the good stuff he's done in camp. He's moved up from maybe bottom of the rotation in terms of what he's shown on tape, right up to, I don't know, number 2 in a battle of one. So, I don't think he's going to supplant Pat O'Connor no matter what. And I don't know whether the team are going to take 5, but of course Pat O'Connor and Keith Cooper are versatile players who can push outside too. Can you take both if you drop an edge player? I don't know. I don't know whether I like the idea of that personally, but we shall see. Edge players, those that played in this game, include Hassanin, Agude, Mohammed, Nate Lynn, Isaac Ukwu. What do you think from those guys?
I mean, Hassanin's shot himself up the depth chart. He's now edge 3. He's edge 3. And again, I know I'm biased with Davenport, but fuck him. I'm just ready to give Hassanin the go and see what he can do. The guy cares, and he's going to give 150%, and he's just going to go absolutely nuts out there. And he's on an upward trajectory, which could threaten this. So I think Hassanin has just put to bed any doubt that he'll be above Pascal and guys like that now. AQM, etc. I'm just ready to put him out there. Nate Lynn has given himself every opportunity to make this roster. I think guys, again, like your Pat O'Connors, I don't know if you're playing them on the edge, whatever, your Al-Qadim Mohammeds, that they're under threat now. He did it last year, he's doing it this year, he's younger, more time for him to develop. I wouldn't fancy trying to sneak him onto the practice squad because I think someone might take him, and I don't want that to happen. Nate Lynn's given himself every chance to make the roster now, and he's a standout amongst others who, for me, did not perform. So he now has first shot at getting to this roster out of everyone else, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, for me, Hassanin, and I hate to be sort of wet blanket, but for me, Hassanin looks amazing in his snaps. I think AQ is still in front of him just because he's a veteran guy. You're getting out of him. I know didn't really see too much of him in this game because he was one of the ones that was pulled in at the end of the first quarter, which perhaps shows his sort of security on the roster. So for me, AQ right now is still edge 3 behind the obvious 2 starters, but Hassanin certainly has put himself in the conversation from being one of the last guys on the roster to a pretty secure guy to get on there as edge 5 right now. Neil Lynn's definitely put himself up into the conversation of pushing another guy off in favor of him. Like Pascal will probably be on NFI to start the season, which will be a boon for Lynn. He can really come in and show that he's got some stuff there in India when Pascal comes back, because we know the team likes him. I know he's on his last term, his contract and that, but because of the versatility he gives, that might mean then when Pascal comes back, pushes one of the interior guys off, and then suddenly you've got an edge group that you can kind of rely on, and then Pascal can maybe go back to what he does best, which is play big end on base downs, and then on the pass rushing down, slide him inside. Best of both worlds.
I think Hassanin's put himself within a shot of taking over Mohammed by the end of the preseason. I'm going to split the difference. Nate Lynn's definitely got a shot. I do think Mohammed is falling down. Yes, he's a vet. Yes, he played well last year. Do I think he's a dead cert to make the roster? No. We'll see. The fact that he's playing reps in these games, I mean, someone has to. But, he still is. That's not a great sign for him. The one who really lost was Agude, because he had a chance, and Lynn's kind of usurped him very much. Ukwu too. You guys have got a shot here. Our edge depth is weak. If we don't sign anyone else, there's going to be a place or 2 up for grabs. Shoot your shot. They didn't. Linebackers. We're playing in this game. We had obviously Stewart and Cunningham. We had Nowaski, Pittman, and then Deron Gilbert played 3 snaps along with Ezekiel Turner playing 47. How do you think that shook out?
Not good. Not good at all. A lot of them played themselves off. I think Nowaski was fine. Yeah, I'm still intrigued enough with Nowaski. You want to keep him round, but I guess it depends, where they define him and where the depth is there at that point in time. But outside the rest, I just wasn't really impressed. Stewart had his moments, but I also saw why he's not a starter in this league and why he's got a ceiling. People go on about him like he could be some sort of superstar. I don't think so. But at the same point, I do like him and the way he plays. So He's a great linebacker, 6, something like that. But outside of the rest of them, they just didn't do a jot. They were awful. And you can see why they're struggling to get on the roster. There was just not a lot in whatsoever. So yeah, Nowaski has given him center shot. Stewart is all right. The rest of them, I don't think I'd take any of the others who played, quite honestly.
For me, yeah, there's little to no movement here, unfortunately, because the only two for me that were actually battling to make it to 53 was Pittman and Nowaski, and the only thing that happened is Nowaski looked better. So right now he's above Pittman, because unfortunately we know who the top three are in Campbell, Anzalone, and Barnes. Stewart will be on the roster because he's special teams, and then he'll be backup Mike. Cunningham right now is making the roster while Rodrigo's out to be the backup Will, and he can slide it to Mike as well, and he can do some special teams. So it came down to the two backup Sams. So to go for the guy who actually played the most Sams snaps and looked the best in Nowaski. Pittman, well, he's got the versatility. Yeah, slight down, Nowaski slides up. That's the only sort of change in the snap counts for me.
Yeah, there's no movement for me here either, which is a shame. So I'll shut up and just move on to the cornerbacks, starting with the outside corners. Playing in this game, Ennis Rakestraw, DiCaprio Bootle, Rock Sin, Tyson Russell, Nick Whiteside. Any movement here?
Rock Sin's put himself on the roster. Period. Rakestraw's put himself down. Like, I know he'll go on the roster, but I think there are very valid concerns getting more by the day now as to what's going on. He just didn't look good before the injury, and was very poor. I don't think any of the other guys really did anything really that's going to move me here. You might end up with some guys on the practice squad of that, but there was no one who really stood out at all. Yeah, I think Bootle was bad. You know what? It's horrible to say, but when he got absolutely mossed for that touchdown, like the play before, I think Lance had thrown one like 7 yards above a receiver's head in the end zone, and he'd done the whole, thing with his hands where he's like, "Oh, cut that." It's like, you did fuck all there. You've done nothing. DBs do not deserve to do the wave hands thing when a ball's been thrown 7 yards above a receiver's head, and then he got mossed like that, which I thought that's karma. That is, but. Yeah, Rock Sin was the only good corner. Like, I think that's the only thing we could take out of that.
Yeah, like for me, as I said, Yasin was making the roster for me anyway, so no real change there. But yeah, just the only big ups, well, the big ones, obviously, Hallett being listed as a corner. So obviously, as we said, he started as a safety, now he's getting corner reps. But yeah, the other two, like Bootle and Russell, the guys who got the most of the snaps. Yeah, no. Yeah, no, let's not. At least Rakestraw he had the contusion to sort of excuse his play a bit, but he didn't look good as a starter. And then the rest are just backup guys, but on the roster, special teams would be more what we're looking for them. And to be honest, none of the corners really start special teams. So
in terms of the nickel position, we had Maurice Norris, Avonte Maddox. Was there anyone else? I'm struggling because of the designations. Did Strickland play there?
Strickland might took some snaps there. I think Russell also did take a couple at nickel.
Okay,
but we can just do corners and safeties here. We don't need to designate.
Fine. Okay, what about the rest of those guys I just mentioned then that we may not have considered before? Oh, sorry. I'll say the safeties as well then, given what Anders just said. Sorry. So safeties also played in this game. We had Dan Jackson, Ian Kennelly, aforementioned Eric Hallett.
Well, this is Strickland, yeah.
I thought I mentioned Strickland. Sorry.
Yeah, it was a mess this game because obviously Hallett playing corner and safety, Strickland playing basically all three roles. It's just a mess. But yeah, Kennedy played 29 snaps, especially as he says, coming off an injury. He was supposed to not play because of an injury. And looks pretty good. Obviously, the spear and that's good. Maddox getting the sort of veteran treatment, did what he needed to do, got off the field, letting the other three of Jackson, Kennedy, and Strickland retake most of the snaps. It's what It's what it's supposed to be. But Norris, obviously, while getting sort of the least defense reps of the sort of guys fighting out for that safety four role, he did get the most of them by one of special teams. So he's got a leg up there. As I say, Jackson's right behind him with 13 to his 14. So is it really something to look at? I don't know.
I know I'm really going to hate this safety cuts when they're made. I think all of them are playing really well right now. Like, they are all really, really pushing one another. I thought Hallett was really good in this, and like he showed some good plays against the run off the edge as well, which we've been missing maybe a little bit. I think Kennelly's just the underdog story who carries on, just been fantastic, and he's setting the tone, and he really gives a damn. Strickland has been around the roster. I know he got suckered in for that first touchdown, but then he's the guy who saved the touchdown when Rakestraw got burnt. He's the guy, he was rapid coming across the field the second he realised Rakestraw had been burned. Comes across, looks good, making plays. I really like him. And then Dan Jackson played well as well. I know he's the draft pick, but as far as I'm concerned, that doesn't mean anything in this battle. I think all four of them are really, really pushing, and they're whoever wins this battle, like, is gonna really have earned this roster spot maybe more than anybody else out of all this because the competition is so fierce. I can't really say a bad word about any of them the way they're playing at the minute. They're just showing the right attitude and they're really going hell for leather. And Loki, it's one of the most fun things when safety three is one of the most fun things you're looking at. Then you've got a good roster. Safety four, sorry, you're looking at a good roster, but they're all performing really well.
It's going to be really interesting to see how many safeties make it, whether they take 3 and say that Maddox can drop back and be safety 4 if you need him, or whether they take 4 and Maddox is going to be a really interesting question, because if it's 3, then Dan Jackson's in a really big fight to make the roster. If there's 4, and you're taking 2 of Norris, Jackson, Hallett, Strickland, and Kennelly, I think that's a really interesting battle. I want there to be 4 just to add a bit more fuel to this fire. I would say that Norris is a bit of a loser in the last week, just because I think he maybe was someone who was maybe thought of as that sort of guy who's been around there a little bit longer and maybe has a bit more prestige than the others potentially, who, has seen some lot of game time compared to the others, even compared to Strickland. I think Norris has played a fair bit more. And he's kind of been dragged into the fight. And Kennelly has really put himself in that fight too. So, yeah, Kennelly's the guy I'm putting for most on the entire roster, even probably above Hassanine. It's just such a good story.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it time and time again. I want the safety 4 because for me, Maddox is safety 3. That's locked in. He can play all over the place. So for me, it's locked into stats. I think we're going to take 4. I want them to be of the Kelly mold, the perfect backup for Kirby because they have similar skill sets. We have enough of these box safety guys. Branch can do it. Maddox can do it. Hell, Yacin's getting snaps there now. So if we need to put him there in a pinch during the season, he can do it. We lack a true backup to Kirby in his single high ball hawking stuff. And Kennedy showed that. He showed he can, while he didn't get his hands to the ball in this game, got good coverage. And he's got the bloody run instincts now. Like, he's ahead of Kirby where Kirby was in his rookie season in the run defense. So that's a big boon for him.
The only thing here is Brad has never cut one of his draft picks. Ever. Not before the 53. This is going to be his biggest challenge yet, to not cut one of the guys he drafted. That's the only thing that worries me about Jackson just getting a straight shot at this thing because they drafted him, but I hope not. Because all these guys... at worst, you would hope you can sneak them all through onto a practice squad. I don't know if Ian Kennelly's a big enough name yet for someone to go, yeah, let's go pinch him off the lines. That is the only thing you can hope if it comes to that. But Brad's record of keeping all his draft picks so far is really under threat now, I think.
It's already gone.
Why? Who did cut? Oh, did cut Chase Lucas?
James Houston drafted 6th round, and we waived and put him on the practice squad.
Oh yeah.
You should know this. You were the massive James Houston guy. You should know this.
Well, I just, he came and was really good for us, so I don't consider it a cut. It was, but I know what you mean. But yeah, he doesn't often do it.
Yeah.
Even the 7th rounders.
Anything you guys want to mention about special teams here in the position by position?
Doink. That was funny.
That was funny.
We love doinks.
I'd like to say, I would like to congratulate myself and give myself a pat on the back for getting the Gunner battle right, and love it. And Tesla not only being the first guys up at that, but looking amazing at it. Like, I know I said earlier that Lovett's in a battle right now with Horton to make the roster, but that's a real leg up for him. I know Dorsey, when he comes back, he is one of the best gunners in the league, but having potentially Dorsey, Yasin, Lovett, and Tesla, who can all play gunner to a high level, that I know the rest of special teams was a disaster for the most part. Like Fox was Fox, Hatton was Hatton, Bates was Bates, but the sort of the coverage teams was a mess. I know Dave Phipp was furious on the sidelines with some of the shit that was going on, but Lovett and Tesla really stood up to me as gunners in that game.
Yeah, that first punt, they missed 4 tackles on the return.
Yeah.
Hatton missed one, Cunningham missed one, Stewart missed one, someone else missed one. I know he only got like 4 yards, but you just see them all flying past you. Like, come on, guys, don't do that. I think Lovett looked the best returner by a mile. If we're looking at returners and the guys who actually return, I thought Lovett looked the best. And not because he fumbled, but please don't give it Grant Stewart. Let's end that conversation right now. I don't want to see him returning footballs this year. Lovett looked really good. That might be his spot on the roster. We'll get Lovett returning some kicks because, he made some good situations out of some bad ones. So yeah, it was promising to see him do it. Let him do it the next game. See if he can really, give Raymond any food for thought.
Dan Pass says James Mitchell as well. I don't know. Was that not a draft pick in the
unless he was injured? He started on PUP.
He started on PUP, and it was brought up. Played the last few games of his rookie season. Obviously, had that streak where he caught every single pass. Second season was here, didn't get to play much, didn't look as good. And now he's been cut, and now he's in Carolina, I want to say.
Yes, I think you're right. Just to say, by the way, thank you very much to Contrapastan for the $5 tip, says Go Lions. And that is the most efficient way to contribute to the show. Nothing is taken away by Streamlabs for that. So if you do want to donate, instead of doing a super chat or a Twitch subscription, which are deducted for by YouTube and Twitch respectively, then you can tip to us. The link is in the YouTube description. Apparently the recurring monthly one doesn't work, but the one-off one does. So there we go. We do have a couple of listeners' questions to get to, but I'm going to take them off the recorded part of the show. So for you guys listening on the pod, we're going to bring this to a close here. For you guys live, we're going to be sticking around after we close this out officially. So stick around, and if you've got a few questions, get them in. Our next show is going to be the College Football Podcast on Wednesday, subject TBD. But the Freaks List did just come out today, so that's going to be potentially a topic of conversation. The next show on the main podcast is going to be us live during the next preseason game. That is Friday night, midnight UK time, which is 7 p.m. Eastern is the kickoff. We'll be live 10-15 minutes before that, breaking it all down as we usually do. The main show is not back this time next week. That is because we are deferring it into our 24-hour show, making sure we've got plenty of content to go through, lots of stuff with you guys. I did at the top of the show go through the agreed guests that we already have on, but just to reiterate them: Jeremy Reisman, Chris Buffett, Nick Baumgartner of The Athletic, Dave Paquette, obviously, of The Free Press, Jeff Risdon of Lions Wire. We've got the man who created RAS and Kentley Platt. He's going to be on. We're going to have some pre-recorded tape reviews that we're all going to take one of each for our top draft picks. We've got some call-ins. We're going to be live during the Lions-Dolphins game. There's going to be loads of stuff to do. Again, if you have a suggestion for a charity based in Detroit that's a cause close to your heart, I really want to hear from you, because I really want something that means something to the viewers. And also, if you have any other suggestions for content, we're still taking suggestions, even though we've got a lot lined up. It'd be great to hear from you on that too. So, with that said, you know what our socials are by now. Remains to me to thank Ash. Sorry, what do you want to say?
Sorry to cut you off. We do have some breaking news. Dan Jackson's has been placed on IR. Kyle Robichaux has been waived with an injury designation, and the team has signed cornerback DJ Miller.
What the hell have we been doing to the backup running backs? That's both of them cropped now.
Yep.
So Dan Jackson, that IR, I presume, is going to be a season-ending IR.
It might be. Well, I'm waiting for Pride of Detroit to say about it.
I do wonder whether the IR designations have to say right now, if you put them on IR, whether you can bring them back or not. Because I do think you have to designate.
You can put them on IR before the season.
You can, but you have to designate some to return in the future, don't you? I don't think you can just put them on. I think they are season-ending unless you designate them to return.
Yeah. Well, former Kent State Golden Flash, DJ Miller, by the looks of things.
Right. Well, anyway,
that's big up for the Kennelly train,
Mr. Kennelly train. Let's go. Right. And Ash, great to do this with you guys on the audio pod. We'll see you later in the week for the college show. But for now, let's go Lions. One Pride.
One Pride.
Recording stopped.
And some questions. We do have one from Mile Marker, which I must admit, Mile Marker, if you're still live, I am confused about what you're asking. So if you do qualify, that would be good. He says, question for later at Royal Lions UK. Any comments to direct my attention to coaches' pre-season games, e.g. reveal their style versus the pre-season mixes of players and plays?
Oh, okay. So I think what Mal Marcus asking is about what can he watch for to learn about coaches' tendencies. So, for example, watching the game against the Hall of Fame game, which, to be fair, the preseason is not going to tell you too much other than formation stuff. Defensively, it seems we're going to keep the same kind of defense under Glenn, which we expected. A lot of base 4-3 with a Sam linebacker, a lot of man coverage, a lot of the strong safety playing as nickel and base formations, that kind of thing. And then on offense, seems we could be doing obviously the two running back sets we've heard about in camp. If we see some of them, how do we use them? Seems we're using a lot of two tight end personnel stuff, so quite a lot to base downs, at least when Kyle Allen's on in the first half. You had Tesla on one side at the X, and then either Lovett or Kennedy as a sort of Z receiver on the other side, with then your Bo and Zylstra playing inline tight ends, stuff like that. So it's just look at how many tight ends on the field, where they're using the tight ends, what kind of receivers they've got out, stuff like that on offense, how we use motions, who's putting motion a lot of time. And on defense, it's just going to be a lot of who do they put where in terms of personnel. So did we see against the Falcons on Friday, do we see a lot of 3-4 looks? Then we can start building stuff on that. But for the most part, it's going to be very, very vanilla. We're not really going to see too much of the fancy stuff because they don't want to show their hand too early in preseason.
Defense looked exactly the same. Yeah. There was nothing to try and go after Lance, bar the front four. They did nothing really exotic, trying to blitz, trying to show a hand there. It was all very samey, which is, yeah, whatever. I'd like to see more 3-man looks next time, and we'll see what that does, because that just didn't... We got no pressure on the defensive line whatsoever, and of course it's preseason, but we need to put these guys in position to make some plays so they can develop. So I'd like to see some more ingenuity going forward.
So Dan Pask has qualified with the IR that he thinks that designation has to be made when you put them on IR, and that has to be at the end of cutdowns. That they stay on the active roster until you put them on IR. So if it's IR now, you are done.
Yeah, because it's like with Levi when they put him on the PEP.
Yeah, so there we go.
Yeah.
Grandizer asks a question. He says, before going into this Lions Chargers game, is there a position you were not worried about but now are worried about? Is the Lions media complaining about positions that are thin?
I'm really worried about... Well, I was worried about tackle before. I'm even more worried now. Linebacker. I think I'm a bit more worried about linebacker now than before, but that's the depth positions, I guess. Quarterback. I think quarterback's the obvious one. I'm fucking loads more worried about quarterback now because neither of them look good.
Yeah, outside corner depth. I know obviously we've got your Sim, but with how Rakestraw looks now the other injury, we know how cornerback depth is needed, especially on the outside, so a bit more shaky on that. And I know it's special teams and no one's going to care, but kick returner, because it does seem very much like the team really likes the Steward returning kicks thing. And yeah, he's got the athleticism for it. Like pound for pound, he's one of the best athletes on the team, former distance runner at high school and that. But he hasn't done it. So you could tell from the facts he took that first kickoff and ran straight into his block. He does not have the ball carrier vision for the returns yet. So unless you're just cranking it to him at the end of every practice, just get like doing the Amon Ra 200 passes from a drugs machine kind of thing, but catching like returns. I'm a bit more shaky on that because if he's our kick return to start week 1, I'm not going to be happy. I want it to be Lovett. I want it to be Reynolds. I want it to be Raymond. I want it to be someone who has got that experience doing it that we can kind of trust to, not run into the arse of one of his blockers and fumble it.
I'm not worried at all about linebacker. Most linebackers are shit. You aren't finding better than what we have. What we have right now is better than most teams. In fact, I go to say I think our linebacker depth is top 5 in the NFL in terms of like who's linebacker 5, 6, 7. It's an indictment on where the linebacker position is, but this is a position where you don't pay linebacker one big money unless they're a top 5 linebacker in the NFL, precisely because it's an insanely difficult position to play, which is why everyone that plays it is bad. So why invest money in that position has always been the conventional wisdom. Not going to be true when we pay Jack Campbell, not true about Anzalone, not true about Barnes. They're exceptional. But our depth guys, yeah, they're going to have bad games, but I promise you that anyone off the street's going to be worse. Let's
just say the Chargers linebackers 5 and 6 has looked a lot better. Troy Dye, etc. I'd take him on this team over anything we've really got here. Any day.
Fair. Not worried about outside corner. It might take a bit of juggling, but Amik is a perfectly capable outside corner. In fact, I think he might be a better outside corner than nickel. So if he has to fill in, that's fine with me. So if your rotation is Arnold, Reed, Yasin, Amik, with Ennis behind them, fine. To replace Amik at nickel, given that it looks like he's going to be a nickel at the moment, you've got Maddox, you've got Lawrence Strickland, you've got Maurice Norris, you've got Hallett maybe. Don't know if he can play there, but you probably can. I think there's options there. And you know what? Nickels are a lot easier to find in free agency than outside corner depth. So slotting Amik over, which might actually be his better position anyway, doesn't give me any palpitations. Edge, I feel worse about. Agude and Mohammed taking a step back. Hassanin obviously playing well is nice, but how much can he stack that? He's still got a long way to go. Lynn is good. Is he made of glass, though?
Only positive with that news coming out with IR and stuff is that Rakestraw wasn't mentioned.
That is true.
Yeah.
So that bodes well.
Pride of Detroit have confirmed so that it's season ending for Dan Jackson as well. So his rookie season is over.
And if Kennelly and that Strickland and that play well, he might never get a look in again, unfortunately.
Yeah, he might get the Chase Lucas treatment, which sucks. Well, actually, let's go back a bit further. The Jamal Jefferson treatment.
Did we have any other questions?
I'm sorry, what was that? I just heard you're not poking a bear there, are you, Ash?
Oh, never. Of course not.
Rude.
One more question.
He's still around. He's on an NFL roster, so...
One more question before we head off from Damian Smith. I'd like to hear your thoughts on Miles Adams, who nobody seems to talk about. Had a decent PFF grade last Thursday. I mean, he's like John Kaminsky, apart from actually no one talks about him. I couldn't care less.
The only defensive tackle need on this team is someone who can rush the passer, and he can't. That's it. If he's an average, just regular D tackle, we don't need one of those. We've got plenty of...
You're not supplanting Roy Lopez.
No, he's done okay. And again, I don't really give a damn about PFF grades, but he's not something that we don't already... He's not something that we don't have. And we've got enough of what he is. So he can play as well as he wants. He ain't getting on the roster unless we're really, really, really short. But he can't rush the passer, so no.
He is very much you put him on the practice squad as one of your sort of, because he's been in the league since 2021. you put him on the sort of practice squad, he's that kind of guy that he does have the body type to play that sort of free tech position that we are looking for, 6'2", 285. As you said, he's basically Josh Pascal in a slightly bigger build, because it's good against the run, can't really rush the passer, but he also doesn't do much wrong. He's just a space eater at the free tech role, but that's what you want from your one tech. So yeah, he's just stuck in a hard place where there's other people above him that can do things better than him. But at the same time, he's a good veteran to fall back on. Like, he played snaps for us last season and didn't look too bad. So having him on the practice squad, so if stuff happens, and because the defensive line is a high packed place, that we get to halfway through the season, we just need someone to come up and fill in the defensive tackle, because I don't know, Roy Lopez has pulled his pec and he needs to sit out a game or two. We just need some D tackle depth. He can come up from the practice squad and fill in nicely there, and we can move stuff around. But he's never going to be, unfortunately, and quite really points out, he's never going to be someone that's going to sit on the 53 unless he jumps Keith Cooper Jr. and Pat O'Connor right now and just shows that he can do some of the pass rushing stuff that he just hasn't in his career before. Like, the highest he's ever got in terms of preseason, in terms of pressures, is 11 on 81 pass rush snaps. He got 2 sacks, 3 hits, and 6 hurries in the 2022 preseason for Seattle, which is also where he got the most snaps. But he's never got more than 5 in a preseason since. So,
all right, that is your lot. So we'll head off now. We'll see you for the college show later, and then the Lions preseason game on Friday night. Hope you guys have a fantastic week. We'll see you all soon. Bye for now.
Ooh.